The moment one practitioner loses their strength, an entire community loses the fake power they stole. Chosen one, let that sink in for a second, because that's exactly what's happening right now. These people built their whole image, their authority, their little sense of control around one individual who was holding their world together. They weren't strong themselves, they were borrowing strength. They weren't respected themselves, they were hiding behind someone else's influence. And the wild part? You saw this from the beginning. You noticed the cracks long before anyone else admitted they were even there. It's like watching a building that looks solid from the outside, but you know the foundation is a joke. Everyone else swears it's stable, but you can already hear the walls rattling. And now, one practitioner is getting weaker, losing control, losing balance, and suddenly the entire community that depended on them is shaking like the ground just split open. Here's a simple fact that proves you were right. When a structure is built on one pillar, all it takes is that pillar collapsing for the whole system to fall. Real power doesn't break that easily. Fake power always does. And the chosen ones know it. You didn't imagine anything. You didn't exaggerate. You saw through them with perfect clarity, while everyone else was acting like nothing was wrong. Chosen one, before we go deeper, thank you for being here. Don't forget to give this message power by liking and subscribing. The universe works through reminders like this, and you help spread that light to others who need it. You're part of a mission, a force that's bigger than any community built on deceit. And thank you for standing with this message, Chosen One. You're not alone in this. Now, let's come back to the truth you already sensed. This community is panicking because they know their entire identity was tied to one practitioner who was never as stable as they pretended to be. They used this person as their shield, their voice, their excuse, their mask. And now that the mask is slipping, they're realizing how powerless they really are. Chosen one, pay attention to how they move right now. Look at how quiet they've become. Look at how nervous their energy feels. Look at how fast they're trying to do damage control. When someone's strength holds up hundreds of people, it means those people never had real strength of their own. They depend on cover because they can't survive being exposed. They depend on authority because they don't know how to stand alone. They depend on someone else's power because they've never had any. This is why your presence is so disruptive to them. You operate from real inner power, the kind that can't be copied, borrowed, or faked. You stand on your own energy, your own clarity, your own alignment with the universe. They can't handle that because your independence highlights their dependence. Your inner strength exposes their weaknesses. They don't fear losing a practitioner. They fear what happens once they no longer have anyone to hide behind. And here's the wild truth they don't want anyone to say out loud. The practitioner they relied on was never truly stable. They were overworked, overstretched, exhausted, and drowning under the weight of a community that treated them like a battery instead of a person. Everyone kept taking from them. Everyone kept expecting them to fix everything. Everyone kept leaning on them until their energy cracked. That's why the community is terrified. They know what happens when a battery dies and there's no backup. Chosen one, notice how you predicted this long before it showed signs on the surface. You understood the pattern. You saw the imbalance. You realized the entire community depended on one person's strength instead of creating strength within themselves. And that's why your perspective is so valuable. You weren't being negative or dramatic. You were using real awareness. You weren't predicting doom. You were calling out a structure that was already falling apart. When someone's downfall threatens an entire group, that group was always weak. Real communities don't collapse because one person collapses. Real systems don't fall apart because one individual is struggling. Only unstable communities, built on borrowed authority, act like this. Chosen one, the universe shows you these truths early because you don't get blinded by noise. You don't get fooled by pretty words. You don't fall for illusions. You see the energy behind the actions. You sense the shifts before anyone else does. And when you spoke up about it before, they dismissed you. They rolled their eyes. They laughed. They tried to silence you because accepting your truth meant admitting their entire world was built on someone else's shoulders. They didn't want to believe the practitioner would eventually break under the pressure, but you knew that when too many people depend on one source, that source eventually collapses. It's like draining a phone battery non-stop and then acting shocked it dies. You can't expect power that's constantly taken to stay limitless. But these people lived in denial until reality slapped them across the face. Now they're panicking. Now they're scrambling for alternatives. Now they're pretending everything is fine. But the chosen ones know what's really happening. They're terrified because their cover is disappearing. Their authority is fading. Their influence is falling apart. And for the first time, they're being forced to stand alone without someone protecting them. Chosen one, you understand something most people never think about. When power is real, it can spread, multiply, and hold itself up. When power is fake, it needs constant support, constant feeding, constant protection. This community wasn't powerful. They were plugged into someone else's energy and calling it their own. And when that person weakens, their entire illusion dissolves. This is why the universe positioned you outside their system. You were never meant to hold up people who refuse to grow. You were never meant to be their battery, their shield, or their excuse. You were meant to witness their downfall so you could understand the truth about power. Real strength is internal. Borrowed strength always breaks. Chosen one, your awareness is your weapon. Your clarity is your advantage. And everything that is happening right now is proving you were right from the beginning. Watch how fast their structure falls apart. Watch how quickly their authority fades. Watch how loud their silence becomes. They knew this day was coming. You warned them with your words, your instincts, your insight. They ignored you because the truth was too uncomfortable. Now the truth is unavoidable. And this time, chosen one, it's all unfolding exactly the way you saw it. Number one, the moment you realized your vision wasn't normal, it was a weapon. They laughed at your warning, but now they're choking on the consequences you saw coming months before they did. Chosen one, this was the moment everything changed. The moment you realized you weren't built like the rest of them. While they walked around blind, bragging about how in control they were, you were picking up signals they couldn't even process. And the wild part? You weren't even trying. Your mind just caught what theirs refused to see. It was the first sign that your awareness wasn't an accident. It was a tool, a threat, a spotlight that exposed every lie they were hiding behind. Think back. Remember how quietly it started. A tiny shift in the room that nobody else felt. A person smiling too perfectly. A situation that looked normal on the outside but felt wrong at the core. You sensed it before anyone else did, and you wondered if you were overthinking. You tried to doubt yourself because doubting yourself felt easier than being different. But reality forced your hand. Every intuition you brushed aside started unfolding in front of everyone. Every warning you kept inside became truth stamped in real time. Every "something's off" turned into proof. You weren't imagining anything. You were reading what their energy was screaming. It's almost funny how fast your instincts kept winning. A person you didn't trust suddenly showed their real face. A situation you knew was shaky collapsed exactly the way you predicted. A comment that bothered you revealed itself as the first crack in a hidden agenda. And while everyone else acted shocked, you were standing there like, I literally told you this would happen. This is when the questions hit you. Why can I see things they can't? Why do I catch patterns before they form? Why do my warnings always turn out correct? Why does the universe show me things so early? And here's the brutal truth, because your mind isn't ordinary. You were built with a detection system they never had. While they were busy chasing validation, you were learning how to read reality. While they relied on faces and masks, you relied on energy and truth. While they clung to comfort, you listened to the discomfort that told you something wasn't right. Your difference was never a flaw. It was an advantage that scared them. Here's a metaphor they can't outrun. Imagine everyone else using old dusty maps while you walk around with a live GPS that updates in real time. They kept getting lost, confused, blindsided. Meanwhile, you kept walking the right direction, predicting the wrong turns before the road even curved. That's why they got intimidated. Nobody likes being outperformed by someone who isn't even trying to compete with them. And yes, at first, you tried to hide it. You tried to shrink yourself. You tried to blend in. Because once you accept your vision, you also have to accept the responsibility that comes with it. People with real sight don't get to pretend they're blind. But the universe didn't let you hide for long. The confirmations were too loud, too accurate, too constant. Every time you tried to go back to normal, your own intuition dragged you forward. They didn't just underestimate you, they underestimated the universe that equipped you. This is where the frustration kicked in. You would warn someone and they'd brush you off. You'd share what you sensed and they'd laugh it away. You'd explain what was coming and they'd call you dramatic, paranoid, or too deep. But the universe has perfect comedic timing, because the moment they dismissed you was always the moment life started proving you right. Again, and again, and again. Your accuracy became a problem for them, not because your predictions were wrong, but because they were right too often. Your vision made them uncomfortable. It made them exposed. It made them realize you weren't someone they could trick, manipulate, or hide from. They couldn't perform for you because you could see through the performance. You weren't analyzing what they said. You were analyzing what they meant. And that level of clarity scares people who live on lies. Here's a hard truth they'll never admit. Your intuition didn't just reveal things. It removed their cover. You saw their insecurity behind the confidence. You saw their jealousy behind the smile. You saw their intentions behind the conversation. You saw their fear behind the fake strength. This was the beginning of the shift. The universe was training you, whether you realized it or not. Every moment you sensed something early was sharpening your vision. Every time you ignored your intuition and paid the price, the universe was teaching you to trust yourself. Every person who proved your first instinct right was another piece of evidence that you weren't guessing. You were reading truth that others refused to acknowledge. Your early experiences were not mistakes. They were rehearsals for the level you're stepping into now. Chosen one, deep down, you knew you were seeing truth before it reached the surface. And that power is exactly what makes you dangerous to people who rely on deception. Because once someone like you exists in the room, nobody gets to hide. Your presence alone is a spotlight. Your instincts are alarms. Your mind is a scanner. And your energy is the test they always fail. And here's the part they hate the most. You don't need proof to be correct. You sense the truth long before the evidence appears. This isn't lucky guessing. This isn't intuition that randomly hits. This is your built-in ability to see what they can't. You've always been ahead of the curve, ahead of the situation, ahead of their plans, ahead of their lies. The universe shows you things early because you're meant to walk with clarity, not confusion. You're meant to move before the chaos hits, not after. And you're meant to expose the shadows before they even adjust to the light. Once you realize this, everything changed. You stopped doubting your instincts. You stopped explaining your warnings. You stopped apologizing for being right. You stopped shrinking to make others comfortable. Because the truth is simple. You were built to see further than they can think. And that's exactly why they feared you from the moment you opened your eyes. Number 2, you didn't just see a person. You unmasked an entire operation built on lies. They thought you were calling out one problem, but you were actually diagnosing the whole system they're hiding inside. Your vision didn't zoom in, it expanded, and suddenly their whole network was exposed under your light. They feared your accuracy, but what they fear now is your reach. You weren't predicting moments. You were predicting the entire blueprint. Chosen one, this is where your story stopped being strange intuition and turned into something that genuinely shook them. Before, you sensed a person's intentions. Now, you sense the whole structure they belong to. You read the hierarchy, the alliances, the fake friendships, the silent agreements, the hidden agendas, all at once. You don't see individuals anymore. You see the machine behind them, and that scares them far more than you calling out one liar ever could. Imagine this. You walk into a room, and while everyone else is busy looking at faces, you're scanning the connections. You're picking up the flow of energy between people. You're noticing who's protecting who, who's scared of who, who's manipulating who. It's like watching invisible wires running between them, showing you exactly where the power really sits. And the messed up part, half the time they don't even realize these patterns themselves, yet you see it instantly. This raises a question in your mind: why can I see the whole map when others can't even see the first step? Why does the universe trust me with angles nobody else notices? Why does my understanding go beyond individuals and into systems? Because you were never meant to expose one person. You were meant to expose the entire pattern. Imagine this: someone hands you a puzzle with 500 pieces. Most people stare at one piece for hours trying to figure out where it goes. You, on the other hand, take one look and already know the final picture. That's why your vision threatens them. You don't need all the details to understand the outcome. You don't need all the information to know the truth. You're walking with a built-in fast-forward button they will never have. This is where your accuracy became dangerous. Not to regular people, but to whole groups, communities, cliques, systems that rely on secrecy and confusion, systems that depend on people not seeing what's really going on, systems that crumble the moment someone shines too much awareness on them. And you didn't just shine awareness, you blasted it across the entire structure like a floodlight. Imagine this. Everyone else is watching a stage performance. They're hypnotized by the actors, the costumes, the script. But you don't look at the actors. You look behind the curtain. You study the director giving cues. You hear the whispers in the backstage. You see who's pulling the strings. While the audience claps for the show, you already know how the entire production works. That's why they panic when you speak. Not because you're wrong, but because you're too right. You mapped outcomes before they happened. You said things that seemed impossible, yet they unfolded exactly the way you described. You explained the future of situations, even when nobody believed the situation itself was unstable. And now that your predictions keep landing with perfect accuracy, you're stepping into a level of awareness where your insight affects entire groups, not just single people. This is the moment your mind evolved from intuition to strategy. You don't just sense someone's motives, you sense the entire pattern they're part of. You analyze the role they play, the people backing them, the ones using them as cover, the ones hiding behind them, the ones benefiting from their existence. You see the ecosystem around them, and once you expose the root, the entire structure starts shaking. The questions you whisper to yourself are not accidents either. Why does my awareness upset them so much? Why do people get nervous when I simply observe? Why do powerful individuals react when I speak truths they claim are all in my head? Why can I predict the outcome of systems long before anyone else notices the cracks? Because your mind isn't reacting to small things. It's responding to the architecture behind the scenes. Your gift scaled because the universe trusted you with a bigger battlefield. And let's be honest, your survival is part of what sharpened your vision. All the doubt they threw at you forced you to trust yourself more. All the criticism they projected onto you sharpened your accuracy. All the isolation you walked through trained you to stand without needing their validation. Everything they tried to break you with ended up building the strength you now use to read entire systems with ease. Imagine this, a chessboard where everyone else is focused on one piece at a time. You're looking at the whole board, the future plays, the traps, the sacrifices, the winning path. They can't understand why you're 10 moves ahead because they're only capable of thinking one move at a time. Your purpose expanded, your assignment intensified, your perception upgraded, and now your accuracy is hitting people who thought they were untouchable. You're not just exposing one liar, you're exposing the structure that created them. You're not just predicting the downfall of one manipulator. You're predicting the collapse of the entire network, protecting them. And that, right there, is why your presence feels threatening to them. They relied on a system to hide their weaknesses. You relied on your truth to reveal them. This is bigger than intuition now. This is insight backed by lived experience, sharpened by survival, upgraded by understanding. You didn't wake up with this awareness. You earned it through every attack, every betrayal, every moment where you were forced to learn how people and systems truly work. And here's the punchline they hate the most. You don't just expose people, you expose their ecosystem. One of them slips, you catch the entire group behind them. One of them lies, you see the collective motive. One of them acts strange, you see the whole ripple effect. One of them tries to hide, you already know who they're hiding for. This is why they treat you differently now. This is why they tense up around you. This is why they whisper your name behind closed doors. This is why your predictions used to bother them, because deep down they knew you were reading their entire system, not just their face. Chosen one, understand this. You didn't choose this awareness. You grew into it. You survived your way into it. You earned it through reality, not fantasy. Your intuition started as a spark. Your insight became a fire. Your accuracy became a threat. And now your vision is something they cannot shut down, silence, or control. The universe didn't give you this expanded awareness for decoration. It gave it to you because you are meant to expose systems built on lies, manipulation, and borrowed power. You are meant to see the truth underneath the mask. You're meant to stay 10 steps ahead of people who spend their lives trying to rewrite reality. The moment you saw the system instead of the individual was the moment they lost the ability to hide from you, and they know it. Number 3, the golden idol you shattered with one look. They weren't scared of losing their reputation. They were scared of losing the illusion you exposed. Chosen one, this part hits different because you didn't just sense their energy. You detected the rot under the gold plating. Everyone around you was hypnotized by their charm. They called this person a leader, a genius, so well connected, as if rehearsing a script they were trained to repeat. But when you looked at them, something inside you jolted. It wasn't fear, it was clarity. A sharp internal voice saying, "There it is." That's the real danger. Imagine this. Someone walks into a room wearing designer clothes, perfect smile, polished persona. Everyone claps. Meanwhile, you're the only one noticing the cracks, the empty eyes, the forced laugh, the tension in their shoulders, the way their energy feels like a trap. You weren't fooled for even 1 second. You saw the predator wearing perfume. You saw the storm pretending to be sunshine. Their mask wasn't weak. Your vision was just too strong for it. And this raises the question many chosen ones secretly ask. Why did I see what everybody else missed? Why did my entire body react when they entered the room? Why did I sense danger before evidence appeared? Because you weren't reading their image. You were reading their impact. This person wasn't just toxic. They were trained in manipulation. They built their whole identity on intimidation, charm, and control. They fed off people walking on eggshells. They loved being the one everyone feared, respected, or obeyed. And the worst part, they had backing, a circle, a network, a shield of people who needed them untouched because their own power depended on this person staying in position. Imagine this, a spider sitting in the center of a web. The web is invisible to most people. They only see the spider smiling and waving. But you saw the threads. You saw how many people were tied to them. You saw how many were protecting them, not because they believed in them, but because they benefited from them. You didn't expose a person, you exposed a whole ecosystem built to protect them. And that's why your vision was dangerous. Not because you were wrong, but because you were the first one who wasn't blinded by their performance. They thought their mask would last forever. Then you walked in. Number 4, the split second. Their mask cracked and your eyes locked on the truth. They didn't slip because they were careless. They slipped because they never expected you to be the one watching. Chosen one, this moment lives in your memory like a freeze frame. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was small, almost invisible, yet powerful enough to blow their whole disguise apart. Maybe it was the way their smile twitched when someone else succeeded. Maybe it was the flash of anger in their eyes when they lost control. Maybe it was the softness in their tone turning sharp the second they thought no one valuable was paying attention. Or maybe it was something deeper. Their energy didn't match their behavior, and your inner system caught the glitch instantly. Imagine this. A polished statue everyone worships suddenly reveals a hairline crack. Most people would ignore it. You didn't. You saw the fracture, followed it with your awareness, and realized the entire statue was hollow. That's the moment their charm stopped working on you. Their reputation evaporated. Their perfect image became a cheap costume hanging off a hostile core. Your eyes didn't expose them. Their truth exposed itself in front of the wrong person. And yes, you asked yourself the questions chosen ones always ask. Why did I notice what everyone else missed? Why did my body react before my mind explained it? Why did this moment feel like confirmation instead of surprise? Because the universe wired you to catch what others filter out. Because your intuition scans for what their reputation tries to hide. Because you don't fall for masks, you read the person wearing them. Imagine this, someone holding a glass of water, smiling while their hand shakes ever so slightly. That tremble tells you everything, the hidden rage, the insecurity, the instability, the truth they prayed would stay buried. And once you saw it, everything else clicked. They underestimated you because they believed image beats awareness. But awareness beats image every single time. And from that moment forward, you became the one person they could never fool again. Number 5. The day your wild theories turned into their living nightmare. They didn't fear your predictions at first. They feared you when every single one of them came true. Chosen one, this is where things got deliciously uncomfortable for them. You weren't guessing, you weren't hating, you weren't jealous. You were reading the pattern in real time, long before anyone else had the guts or clarity to admit something was wrong. You said they would slip. You said their mask would crack. You said the truth would leak. And everyone rolled their eyes, calling you dramatic, emotional, or too intense. But then the universe backed you, one prediction at a time. Imagine this, a dam with tiny leaks. Everyone else keeps saying, relax, it's fine. Meanwhile, you're standing there like, that wall's about to explode. And then, drip, drip, crack, your first call becomes reality. A misplaced comment, a public slip-up, a story that doesn't add up. Nothing major at first, but enough to send a ripple through the crowd. Every time you were right, their stomach dropped a little more. And that's when the questions hit your mind. Why does everything I sense end up happening? Why do people only believe me after the damage is done? Why am I seeing outcomes before they even begin? Because you weren't predicting, you were observing. Your mind connects dots faster than they can form excuses. Soon, people started noticing. Not everyone, just the ones paying attention. But the person hiding the biggest secrets. They noticed instantly. Their confidence cracked. Their eyes followed you a little too long. Their smile got tighter. Suddenly, you became the variable they couldn't control. Imagine them waking up every day wondering, what will the chosen one see next? Your accuracy wasn't luck, it was a threat. And from that point on, your credibility wasn't just growing. It became the one thing they could no longer deny, outrun, or silence. Number 6. The sharp precision that turned you into their worst-case scenario. They could have brushed you off if you were vague, but you were exact, and exactness is the one thing liars can't survive. Chosen one, here's the truth they're choking on. Your accuracy isn't spooky because it exists. It's spooky because it's perfect. You didn't throw out general guesses like everyone else. You didn't speak in blurry warnings. You called out the pattern, the timing, the behavior, the collapse, and every detail unfolded like you were reading from a script written months ahead. That's what terrifies them. Not that you predicted something, but that you predicted everything with surgical clarity. Imagine this. Someone fires an arrow blindfolded and it lands dead center every time. People would call it luck until the third or fourth shot. After that, it's not luck, it's skill. And that's exactly what happened with you. They kept pretending you were overreacting, but then your words started aging like truth bombs with timestamps. The universe wasn't giving you guesses, it was giving you previews. And yes, you've probably asked yourself, why does my clarity hit so precisely? Why do events line up with what I said, almost too perfectly? Why does my intuition feel more like memory than prediction? Because you're not reading the surface, you're reading the mechanism underneath it. You're not sensing behavior, you're sensing inevitability. People are now going back to your old words, like detectives reviewing evidence. They're matching dates, comparing details, realizing you described present events long before they were visible. And that's when fear hits them, because the alignment is too sharp to ignore. Imagine this. A storm rolls in, and everyone claims it came out of nowhere. But you were the one pointing at the sky weeks before, saying, "Watch that cloud." They laughed then. Now they remember every single warning you gave. Your clarity doesn't just reveal truth, it removes their ability to pretend. And that's why they can't dismiss you anymore. Your accuracy destroyed their excuses, their confusion, and their denial in one clean sweep. You don't just hit the target. You hit the truth they prayed would stay hidden. Number 7. Every trap they set for you became proof. They couldn't touch you. They didn't fail because their attacks were weak. They failed because you were built to survive things they can't even understand. Chosen one, let's make something clear. They threw everything at you, not always loudly, not always directly, but strategically, quietly, and intentionally. They tried to bend your path without making it obvious. They wanted you distracted, confused, tempted, occupied, overwhelmed, anything that would take your eyes off the truth you were exposing. They sent people pretending to connect. They sent situations designed to drain you. They dangled fake opportunities just to pull you into their system. They used silence, pressure, gossip, intimidation. All the classic tactics of weak minds trying to topple someone with real strength. Imagine this, someone trying to shake a mountain with a plastic spoon. That's how ridiculous their efforts were. They kept swinging, and you kept standing. They tried to cloud your thinking, but your clarity snapped back every single time. They tried to lower your frequency, but you rose higher than their entire strategy. They expected you to break, freeze, fold, or react, but you didn't give them anything. Your stability under attack was the moment they realized you're built from something they can't mimic. And you've probably wondered, why did every distraction feel off? Why couldn't I fall for their temptations, even when they looked appealing? Why did my clarity return faster every time? Because nothing they sent matched your alignment. Nothing they offered matched your purpose. Nothing they tried matched your frequency. Imagine them watching you like, why isn't this working? Every trap they set, you stepped over. Every distraction they crafted, you ignored. Every emotional push, you resisted without even trying. Your resilience wasn't tactical, it was natural. They attacked your mind, and your mind didn't flinch. And that terrified them more than your predictions or your clarity. Because once someone realizes they can't manipulate you, distract you, tempt you, or shake you, they understand the truth. You're untouchable in ways they never planned for. Number 8. The moment your own bloodline collided with their hidden network. Nothing scares a corrupt system more than a chosen one who's connected enough to see the truth and bold enough to say it out loud. Chosen one, this is where everything stopped being some external drama and became personal. Not because you wanted it that way, but because someone in your own family was unintentionally plugged into their circles. They weren't evil. They weren't aware. They were just connected. And that alone made the whole situation feel heavier. Suddenly, the web wasn't far away. It was brushing against your own walls. And that's why this hit differently. They tried to use that family connection as leverage. They tried guilt. They tried pressure. They tried emotional manipulation. They thought your love for peace would outweigh your loyalty to truth. They forgot that you don't bow to comfort. You bow to clarity. You've probably asked yourself, why did they involve someone close to me? Why did the universe let me see all this through family ties? Why did this become so personal so fast? Because exposure always hits closest to home first. And because they assumed you'd stay quiet to keep the harmony. They severely miscalculated. Imagine this, a group hiding behind a polished front, thinking their secrets are sealed tight. Then you make one simple statement online, one truth, one observation, one accurate breakdown, and suddenly the entire network goes into meltdown. Phones lighting up, meetings happening behind closed doors, people scrambling like roaches when the lights turn on. Your words didn't cause chaos. Their guilt did. You didn't rant. You didn't exaggerate. You didn't guess. You simply described the pattern, and the pattern matched their reality too perfectly. Legal teams noticed. Gatekeepers noticed. People who should have stayed calm suddenly panicked. Imagine them reading your post with their heart dropping because you weren't circling around the truth. You were naming it. You were describing their system without ever stepping inside it. You were outlining their behavior like you'd been studying them for years. You didn't just hit the mark. You hit the blueprint. And here's what truly rattled them. You exposed the network behind the perpetrator, the silence, the protection, the cover-ups, and you did it so accurately that it felt like you were reading internal documents. Your insight threatened their hierarchy. Your clarity threatened their shield. Your refusal to stay silent threatened their entire structure. Imagine them gasping at how close you got with nothing but awareness. Imagine them realizing your mind could unravel their whole system without needing evidence. Imagine them panicking because your one post did what their enemies couldn't accomplish in years. And the ironic part? By reacting the way they did, they confirmed everything you said. Guilty people don't stay calm. They scramble. Your family connection may have brought the situation to your doorstep, but your voice is what blew their comfort apart. You didn't crumble. You didn't fold. You didn't get intimidated by their titles, their circles, or their false sense of importance. You stood on truth. They stood on fear. And that's why your impact hit harder than any attack they launched. Chosen one. The moment you spoke, their structure shook, because your accuracy didn't expose a person. It exposed the entire machine protecting them. Number 10. The harder they push you down, the higher you rise. They thought shutting you up would save them. Instead, every move they made screamed, "We're hiding something." Chosen one, this is where their entire strategy collapsed in front of them. They genuinely believed that silencing you, discrediting you, or twisting your words would shut down the truth. They thought you were like everyone else, someone who would panic, fold, lash out, or crumble under pressure. But instead of reacting how they expected, you did the one thing they never planned for. You stayed calm, clear, and unbothered. Every attempt to quiet you made people listen harder. Every attempt to correct the narrative raised more suspicion. Every attempt to dismiss you ended up validating your entire message. A guilty person fights. An innocent person simply stands. That contrast destroyed them. And yes, you asked yourself, why do they keep overreacting? Why does every defensive move reveal more than it hides? Why do they panic while I feel perfectly at peace? Because they know something you don't need to prove. You're telling the truth and they're scrambling to survive it. Imagine this: someone trying to stop a small flame by blowing on it, only for the wind to ignite a wildfire. That's exactly what happened. Their attempts to silence you didn't weaken your voice, they amplified it. Your calm responses made them look unhinged. Your clarity made their confusion obvious. Your stillness made their panic undeniable. They expected revenge. You gave them facts. They expected rage. You gave them consistency. They expected emotional chaos. You gave them a measured truth that they couldn't distort. Your calmness was the slap they never saw coming. And the universe made the contrast impossible to miss. You wake up peaceful. They wake up scanning for threats. You move with purpose. They move with fear. You speak with clarity. They respond with defensiveness. Your innocence keeps you light, centered, and grounded. Their guilt weighs on them like armor they can't take off. Imagine them lying awake at night, replaying everything you said, terrified the next truth you speak will unravel another layer of their system. Meanwhile, you sleep easy because you have nothing to hide, nothing to protect, nothing to fear. Innocence frees you. Guilt chains them. The backfiring is not random, it's inevitable. The universe doesn't support lies, it exposes them through pressure. Trying to silence someone with real truth is like trying to put out the sun with a blanket. All they did was prove your point. All they did was expose their fear. All they did was confirm your accuracy. Chosen one, they're fighting to survive a truth that you stated calmly. You're thriving while they're unraveling, and the irony, they built their own downfall with every move they made against you. Number 11. When one truth cracks the wall and the whole system starts falling. Exposure never starts with evidence. It starts with the one person who refuses to stay silent. Chosen one, this is how it always unfolds. Not with chaos, not with explosions. It begins quietly, with one voice breaking the silence everyone else was too scared to touch. That single truth shakes the ground just enough for others to feel safe stepping forward. Then the leaks start. Not rumors, not guesses, receipts, messages, screenshots, recorded calls, documents, financial trails, agreements that were supposed to stay buried. One leak becomes two, two becomes 10. And suddenly, the dam they swore would never crack collapses under its own pressure. Imagine this, a tower built on lies, stitched together with fear. The moment one thread snaps, the entire structure starts trembling. That's exposure. It's not one person falling. It's a chain reaction that takes down everyone who depended on secrecy to survive. Meanwhile, look at your position. You're calm, steady, unbothered. You're building while they're panicking. You're rising while they're shrinking under the weight of their own deception. They aren't terrified of what you'll do. They're terrified of how you already knew. Conversations about you are happening in rooms you've never been invited into. people with influence, with status, with titles, whispering your name because you revealed more with one truth than they could hide with 1,000 lies. You didn't attack them. You didn't seek revenge. You didn't even raise your voice. You simply spoke the truth, and reality took care of the rest. And now the universe is validating you in ways they never expected. Your character? Confirmed. Your integrity? Respected. Your insight? Proven accurate again and again. They spent years building illusions. You shattered them with clarity, and the collapse you foresaw is finally here. Not because you exposed them violently, but because the truth you spoke made hiding impossible. Number 12. The world finally catches up to the truth you carried alone. Vindication doesn't arrive with applause. It arrives when reality aligns with everything they swore you were wrong about. Chosen one, this is the moment the universe has been steering you toward. The moment where every pattern you exposed, every system you mapped, every silence you called out, every manipulation you named, every timeline you predicted, finally lands in plain sight for everyone to see. You weren't guessing, you weren't exaggerating, you were reading the truth in real time while the rest of the world was still trying to protect their illusions. And now, look around. People are waking up. Victims are finding their voices. Enablers are being held accountable. Lies are collapsing under the weight of undeniable evidence. The structure they swore was unbreakable is falling apart exactly on schedule, your schedule. You weren't ahead of your time. You were simply ahead of their denial. This vindication isn't just about being right. It's about everything you had to endure while being right. The mockery, the dismissal, the gaslighting, the isolation, the constant pressure to shut up, stay small, or stop seeing what you saw so clearly. And through all of it, you refused to betray your own clarity. Imagine this, a lighthouse standing alone in the fog while ships insult it for blinking too brightly, until the storm hits and suddenly that same light becomes the only thing saving them. That's you. Your truth was inconvenient when they wanted comfort. Now it's undeniable when they need direction. Your accuracy isn't your legacy. Your courage is. Your integrity is what breaks generational silence. Your refusal to fold is what exposes networks of corruption. Your strength is what gives others permission to step out of the dark. You didn't win just for yourself. You won for every soul who was ignored, for every voice that was shut down, for every person who was punished for telling the truth before it was safe to do so. And now, the world is finally catching up to what you knew from the beginning. You weren't the problem. You were the clarity they needed. This is your moment, your vindication, your victory. The universe kept the receipts, and now it's showing them one by one. And you made it to the end, chosen one, and that alone shows your clarity is stronger than anything they tried to silence. Everything you sensed, everything you exposed, everything you predicted has now been proven right in front of the world. Stand in that truth. Own that power. And if this message hit you the way it was meant to, press the like button if you haven't already. And if you're not part of the family yet, make sure to subscribe. Your presence strengthens this mission, and your voice keeps the truth moving forward.